We're going to give it just another minute before we get started. The good news is a lot of room for social distancing in the auditorium today. I know we have an audience that's online as well, so I think we're going to get started. I know people will roll in, but I think we're going to go ahead and get started. And so welcome everyone to our 2022 reunion, SIP reunion. And I'm going to start us off on a somber note by reading not one, but two land acknowledgements. The first one is for the Jewish Community Center that we're in today, and the second one is for UC Santa Cruz, the campus on which most of the work for SIP gets done. So tonight's venue, this is the Oshman Family Jewish Community Center of Palo Alto, is located on the land of the Tamian Nation and the Ohlone, Ramaitush, and Muwekma people. The land on which the UCSC campus is located, where most of the SIP program is conducted, is the unceded territory of the Awaswa-speaking UP tribe. The Amamutsun tribal band, comprised of the descendants of indigenous people taken to Mission Santa Cruz and San Juan Bautista during Spanish colonization of the Central Coast, is today working hard to restore traditional stewardship practices on these lands and heal from historical trauma. A little bit later in the presentation, after you've heard other speakers, when I come back, I'll say a little bit about our work with the Amamutsun students and families. So a hearty welcome to you. This is our 7th reunion, even though this is the 14th. We've completed 14 editions of the Science Internship Program. And I was playing around with the Roman numerals for 14 and trying to come up with something. And this is the best I could do. So there you go. You know, XIV is actually part of the astronomy archive, but I didn't think that would be appealing to anyone. So instead, we'll talk about what SIP is doing, which is expanding people's horizons, knowledge horizons, other horizons as well, and really transforming lives. I couldn't fit the word transforming onto the slide, so I had to make it changing lives, but now you know all the secrets of this slide. We have a few things for you this evening. There is a video that'll be played right after this that features four SIP alumni who happen to be UC Santa Cruz students. I won't give it away, wait for the video. We'll have two speakers who are here today. SIP alumni will speak to you, Sarah and Tejas. After that, we'll have a mix of in-person, live via video, and even recorded video of 5 speakers, Andrea, Anne, Ricardo, Emily, and Madhukar, and they'll get introduced in turn. And I'll come back and give you an update of the 2022 SIP program, the history of SIP a little bit, and what we're doing with the CREST umbrella programs. So with this, I'm going to hand it over to Chris so you can show us the video featuring Seema, Diego, Naeli, and Jacob.
My experience at SIP was really fun. I was a part of a psychology research project, and working on the project itself was really fun. My mentor was an amazing PhD student. I would have to say interacting with her really piqued my interest in research. So even now, I'm super interested in research articles, research papers. If I'm not doing anything special, you will probably catch me reading a research paper.
My experience at the science internship program was really fun. I got to experience what it was like to live in the dorms at a college and having a feel of what it was like to live with other interns or students. It was an experience. It was really fun. Every day it was something new that would happen in the dorms.
My experience with the science internship program was honestly wonderful. I got to work with the PhD students and we worked on a sex education in the public school system, and it was a super eye-opening experience which made me get into research in the first place. Just working with everyone overall, especially Raja, he was amazing. All the faculty and the RAs were beautiful. My whole experience, the 10 weeks, were amazing. Being able to work in a lab was something I didn't think I'd be interested in, but working with the program and Santa Cruz, everyone was just amazing.
I think overall, my SIP experience was more so the aspect of community, meeting new people, and then just experiencing the independence that you get. Just helps settle in the idea of college and getting familiar and very comfortable with it. I'm a second year at UC Santa Cruz and I'm a computer science game design major.
And I am a first-generation second-year student here at UC Santa Cruz. My proposed major is sociology.
I am a second year at UCSC and I am majoring in business with specializing in accounting.
I'm a first-generation second-year college student. I'm a proposed cognitive science major and I'm hoping to double major with econ.
Sarah next. I just want to say that, the 4 students you saw featured in the video attended the same high school, attended SIP the same year, all decided to apply to UCSC. All 4 of them just got into UCSC, and they actually dormed together. They live in the same dorm at Rachel Carson College. Okay, Anand, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Raja, for introducing me so I can introduce Sarah. All right, before we get to introductions, hello, everyone. My name is Anand Valeria. You may or may not know me, but I was the... Mom, are you recording me? This is being recorded and streamed. Hey, you sat in the second row. Come on now. You could just watch this. I'm up there. Oh, yes, but I was a program assistant for 2020. I was the operations coordinator for 2022. That doesn't matter. I'm the son to Harpreet Lalaria and Jarnell Lalaria, who came to this event. Yes. Now, we've gotten sentimental. Let's continue this. Let's go down memory lane. Who is here from SIP 2022? Put your hands up. Parents, you can put your hands up. Okay. Cheers are encouraged. Okay. Strong turnout. Thank God we got you guys. All right, SIP 2021. Okay. Very strong. 2020, the first remote year. Okay. Wow. Thank you guys for coming. SIP 2019. Okay. Yes. The last year. Talk to anybody from SIP 2019. They won't admit it, but they had the best time of their lives. They were like, it was in person. Raja took us to McDonald's multiple times. SIP 2018. Okay, okay. Cool, cool. 2017. Nice. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you guys after. 2016. Oh, okay. SIP 2015. Wow. Okay, okay. SIP 2014. Okay, okay. 2013. Okay. 2012. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Strong turnout over there. SIP 2011. Okay. Okay. SIP 2010. SIP 2009. Okay. 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 Well, thank you everyone for participating and coming. And we're about to embark on our 15th year of SIP. And it's grown to this point. We've had in-person experiences, remote 3 years, our international presence. They can't be here, but they're watching online. I do not forget about you guys. Thank you to the viewers on YouTube. We're gonna keep this clean so it doesn't get demonetized. But now to introduce Sarah Ryan Purcell, I like to say SRP, but to everyone else, she is Sarah Ryan Purcell. She has come all the way from Cork, Ireland. She was a SIP intern in 2019 in the area of psychology, and she studied child robot interactions with Dr. Elizabeth Goldman as her mentor. She has become a loyal friend of SIP, serving on the Alumni Council and as an alumni buddy supporting new interns each summer. She is now in her 3rd year of college, studying psychology and primary school teaching in Mary Immaculate College, Limerick. Sarah has also started to work part-time and over the summer remotely with a Bay Area startup called STEM Away. We were very pleased to hear that Sarah was one of 80 young adults to receive a gold award from the President of Ireland last July in recognition of her achievements in STEM, music, and sport. Sarah will now speak to you about her life after SIP and share nuggets of wisdom to all of you setting off on your career paths. So, round of applause for Sarah.
Thank you, Anand, for that lovely introduction. Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. My SIP 2019 fellow interns might recognize that line. It's a strange way to start this evening, but it was how I ended my speech at the presentation day of SIP in 2019 at UC Santa Cruz. And well, hopefully I'll be able to get through the speech this time without descending into floods of tears. Though I will say that Raja told me earlier this week that it might be an effective technique to capture and maintain people's attention. So I might try it later on. I was one of the very lucky few to attend in person before in the pre-pandemic days, and especially lucky, of course, because I was able to come all the way from Ireland and attend SIP in person at UC Santa Cruz. In my speech there in 2019, I referred to my favorite day of SIP. And honestly, I still remember it so clearly. Oh, I'm going to start crying again. Wednesday, July 10th, 2019. And that day and all the other SIP days are actually in this diary that I have here today, a New York Academy of Sciences diary. No prizes for guessing where I picked that up. So the day started with a discovery lecture from a guest lecturer in UCSC on nanochemistry and chirology, mind-boggling stuff. And then the day finished with a heated game of capture the flag on the Rachel Carson field. Though it didn't quite finish there because we went on to play card games after that. But in between, I had a discussion with my mentor, Dr. Elizabeth Goldman, on how I could further the child-robot interactions research that we had been doing beyond the realms of SIP 2019, and that I did. So when I went back to Ireland, I actually furthered the research in the following months, conducting psychological research on 352 with, I should say, not on, 352 students in Cork City in Ireland. And then I submitted my project entitled World of Robots, Child-Robot Interactions into the National BT Young Scientist competition in Ireland. I was a finalist of the competition, so I had the opportunity to present my work in Dublin to the general public and to the competition judges, of course, and to the Taoiseach of Ireland. For anyone who doesn't know, well, you probably won't know the word Taoiseach. It's an Irish word, but it refers to the Prime Minister of Ireland, the head honcho of Ireland, we'll say. So I actually had the privilege of speaking to the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, again just a few weeks ago. And we got talking about politics. It was at the official opening of the Blessed Edmund Rice Centre in Cork, which is a centre for youth leadership development and faith development among youth. And we had a chat about politics, and of course, and he said, I said to him, oh, I could see myself going into it, maybe even becoming Taoiseach. And he said he never could. He never could see himself, that is. The point he was making, he was emphasizing that you don't have to know where you're going, but you have to be ready to take the chance when you get it. And that's something I strive for. Picture a 16-year-old girl in her 4th year in secondary school in Cork City in Ireland. This girl made a life-changing decision, a very simple one, and that was to say yes to everything. I was opening doors all around me. Not only was I opening the doors, I was dashing through them. I was street collecting for various charities. I was coaching tennis. I was teaching piano. I was starting singing lessons. I was volunteering at Blackrock Castle Observatory, providing space-themed workshops and birthday parties, summer camps, and historical tours of the castle. Oh, I'm getting tired even thinking about it. So on account of all of this work I was doing, one of my teachers in school recommended for me to pursue the Bronze Goshka Award, and this is a youth development program established by the President of Ireland that recognises youth's engagement with skill development, community involvement, and physical recreation and pursuit of challenge. So as you can imagine, at this stage I fit the bill and I achieved the award in September 2017. I then went straight and set my sights on the Gold Award, which Anand alluded to earlier, but the picture in the centre there is me receiving the award from the President of Ireland in Áras an Uachtaráin, which is the White House of Ireland, the President's home. And I received that in July 2018. But apart from helping me to succeed in getting my Gold Award, I should add SIP contributed to this, as in addition to 52 weeks of community involvement, 78 weeks of community involvement, 52 weeks of skill development, 52 weeks of recreation, and an 4-day 50-mile hike. In addition to all of that, I had to spend time in an unfamiliar setting with unfamiliar people. And many award candidates for this Gold Award would have gone to local organisations in Ireland, but ever the one to go the extra mile, I went the extra 5,000 miles and went all the way to California for SIP, and I am so glad I did, because the amount I have gained from my SIP experiences is just, it can't be counted. So in addition to helping me to succeed the Gold Award and to allowing me to enter into the BT Young Scientist competition in Ireland, it also led me to a new internship opportunity. I sit on the Alumni Council for SIP, and we were brainstorming how we might be able to connect and engage alumni after their time at SIP. And Raja mentioned a friend of his had a startup called STEM Away. And STEM Away is an online networking, recruitment, and skill development platform for students and young professionals in STEM. And we had the idea of maybe collaborating with them and building kind of an online hub for SIP alumni, which You might see down the line, you never know. But we did not have the idea of me working with STEM Away ever since. In summer 2020, I led a team of UX, user experience research and design, and this team ranged from high school students to PhD candidates. So it was a quick upskilling in UX, in leadership, in critical thinking, problem solving, and we undertook a project for the summer. Later that summer, I was offered the position of project manager of the bioinformatics pathway. The following summer, I was fortunate to receive the paid position of program planning and execution intern. And finally, just last summer, I took on the role of assistant mentor and project manager of the UX pathway again. And I must say, I'm very excited to meet the founder and my boss of STEM Away next Monday in person for the first time. So I've been working very closely with her for 3 years, but as I said, this is my first time returning to California since SIP, so I'm very excited to meet her. Many of my college friends and lecturers are often surprised with this summer job that I have in project management, bioinformatics, and UX. And the reason being is because I'm studying psychology and primary school teaching in college. There isn't a whole lot of overlap there, but this course is directly related and as a direct result of my SIP experience in the psychology department at UCSC. And I'm really enjoying the course. I should add that they're not actually that surprised because they know I'm someone who just sticks my hands into everything and gives a go at everything. So when I started college, it was in the middle of the pandemic. Everything was online. I didn't even set foot in Limerick. My college is in Limerick, but I live in Cork, 2 different counties in Ireland. I didn't set foot in Limerick for the whole of my first year. So what I did instead is I joined every club and society I could find in the college to help integrate myself into the college community. And I ended up starting up my own radio show on the college radio station called Spraga is Spree, which translates to motivation and fun. It's a bilingual talk show on motivation, inspiration, and positive thinking, which I interviewed entrepreneurs, psychologists, magicians, and more. So this brings me to another passion of mine, Teanga na Gaeilge, the Irish language. I tá angrag an dún Gaeilge ach farir ní le rútar í go forlahan sa tír a hila. So what I just said there is I really love the language, but unfortunately it's not very widely spoken despite being a compulsory subject for the 14 years of education. This year, I was elected as Irish Language Officer of the college, which means I sit on the executive committee of the Students' Union and collaborate with national organisations such as Conradh na Gaeilge. Now, why am I bringing up any of this? Don't worry, I'm not going to sign you all up for Irish language classes. Though, if you are interested, I do know where to find them in San Francisco. I'm hoping I might be able to drag a friend there tomorrow. They're having an Irish Christmas market at the weekend, so do hit them up if you want. But my point is, you don't have to know where you're headed. Your career path, that's exactly what it is. It's a path. It can wind in different directions. It can double back on itself. It can separate into many paths. I could end up in media. I could end up in project management, Irish language affairs, general language affairs, teaching, inspiring the young minds of the future, STEM, psychology. The opportunities are endless, and a lot of this is thanks to SIP. SIP can open so many doors for you if you allow it to. If you open your eyes for opportunities and actively seek them out. I can say from my experience, enthusiasm and a hard work ethic will get you a lot further than talent can ever, and it'll get you to places you couldn't imagine. So, taking it all back to the start, there obviously was no reason for me to be crying because it was over back in 2019, because as it turned out, that's just the beginning. Thank you.
So those who know me know that the best part of Sarah is the fact that she studies in Limerick, because I've had a lifelong passion for limericks. That's our next speaker is Tejas Mahesh. Tejas was a SIP intern in 2022 when the program was entirely online because of the global pandemic. Tejas worked in the subject area of psychology. He worked with Elise Dufault, and the topic they worked on was very, very relevant to today, has been relevant for the last several years, sadly. It was about a comment on fake news is what their project was. So Tejas will say more about his work. So please join me in welcoming Tejas Mahesh to the stage.
Well, first off, good evening, everyone. My name is Tejas Mahesh, and I'm a senior at California High School. First off, I would like to thank Ms. Sierra Schneider, Dr. Raja Guha-Thakurta, and the SIP staff for bringing all of the SIP alumni together. I would also like to thank my mentors, PhD students, Elise Dufault and Nguyen, for providing an engaging summer of research. Finally, I would also like to thank my parents. Without them, I would not be here. Even though we were fully remote during the summer of 2022, SIP was still an engaging summer of research. SIP brought together some of the most intelligent, hardworking high schoolers across the globe, and I mean across the globe. SIP stoked my passion for research and knowledge, which I use today in my daily life. One of my favorite parts of SIP was attending the lectures by amazing scientists across the globe. Through the cognitive colloquium, I learned how PhD students were conducting their research in all sorts of fields, from brainwaves to polite robots. I learned new techniques in graphing and interpreting data, something that was barely taught at school. The work in my AP statistics class is now significantly easier now that I know how to sample populations objectively, identify biases, and interpret data. SIP also stoked my curiosity through events such as virtually touring the Large Hadron Collider and Michigan State's facility for rare isotope beams. It further expanded what I learned in my classes that junior year, as I got to pester a tour guide with a multitude of questions. But the most influential part of SIP was the research I engaged in that summer. Doing research on hyperpartisan language and communication under Dufault really changed how I perceived the political situation in America. When I started research in comment on fake news on hyperpartisan language, I came in with a vague understanding that media was powerful. However, since I was not on social media with no Instagram account, I could not see nor feel the effects that it had on society. However, through my research, I began to better understand the impact of social media. I came to understand how certain words could sway individuals. The importance of my research was further accentuated at Boise State, which was a one-week program simulating the government, where we would all run for elections and for other positions in government jobs. I applied the concepts that I learned through my research when I was running for a position as a justice on the Court of Appeals. I used words and phrases that accentuated the virtues common to every person's coat of arms. Through phrases such as citizens of Boise State, integrity, and trademark for truth, my campaign slogan, my message reverberated within everyone's core. And consequently, I later won that position. Through my research at SIP, I've become a more articulate person. The research I undertook still guides me today, especially in controversial discussions in my economics and government classes. SIP has ignited my inner flame for research and intellectual discussions, and I hope to carry that torch through college and the rest of my life. Thank you.
They told me not to do jokes the second time around. Though Raja was supposed to come up with me, and Raja is here now. And this is what you. Yes. Excellent speech, Tejas. You were not on social media before, so I run the social media channel with our amazing PAs. And I was like, "Hey, Tejas, did you see what we posted? You were on the post." He was like, "Nope." I was like, "You didn't see it?" He was like, "I don't have social media." I was like, "It's 2022. Like, we don't even send emails out for SIP anymore." But he was like, "Yes." Tejas, are you still not on social media? Are you on TikTok? Okay. We haven't gotten to him yet. But reels are good though, right? Okay, cool. All right. Our next speaker, she is joining us remotely. No. Remotely, they will do this. But Andrea Medina is a professor in the Chicano Studies Department at the University of California, Santa Barbara. As a teenager, she moved from the Yucatan jungle in southern Mexico to the urban jungle that is Los Angeles. She works with the Mayan and Comacayan indigenous people of Mexico and is very active in social justice issues. She was a mentor in SIP 2021 in the then new to SIP interdisciplinary subject area of art, culture, and STEM, and led a research project titled Cataloging Mayan Medicinal Plants, bridging the gap between indigenous medicine and contemporary science, and served as the secondary mentor for a research project titled Creativity in Holistic Healing, Designing Access to Mayan Medicinal Plants through Interactive Tools and Guides. So for our remote speaker, please give her a round of applause. Yes. And Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hola, buena noche a todos. Hello, greetings, everyone. I felt very honored when I received Dr. Raja's email inviting me to participate tonight, and I really wish I could be there in person with you all. I thank you, Raja, for the invitation. I thank you, Sierra, and the phenomenal team that is part of SIP that I haven't yet met, but I can see you, I see your work, and I honor it, especially all the work that is happening behind the scenes to make this remote presentation happen. Thank you so much. My journey with SIP came after Dr. Annette Lee from Native Skywatchers introduced us. I am deeply grateful to her for making such connection and for the powerful work that she leads. At the time, I was working closely with the Comcac Nation in the state of Sonora in Mexico, a tribe of native peoples that lived on the desert and had no water. They're known for being hunters and gatherers, but what not very many people know is about their deep knowledge of astronomy. Can we start the video now, please? Oh, no. Let's see if it works. Well, while we figure this out, I'll tell you a little more about the Comcac. The Comcac have a name for every star that they know, for the constellations, and it is the night sky that their calendar is based on. It's quite spectacular. It tells them when it's time to fish, to harvest some medicinal plants, to hunt, and much more. Thanks to the connection, I'll stop right here for you to hear one of the, a little bit of If we can pause the sound there, we'll leave the video running for a little bit and I'll tell you a little more about it. So thanks to the connection to Native Skywatchers, Dr. Raja invited Comcac astronomers to participate in a Shadow the Scientist night, which is some of the images that you just saw and you'll continue to see, where the UCSC and the NOIR lab teams used, and I'm going to quote this, the Keck telescope and the ESI spectrograph in Hawaii to obtain spectra of pulsating stars and the remote outer halo of our Milky Way galaxy at distances of 0.25 million to 0.5 million light years from us. Now, I had to borrow that narrative about such night because my mind is still wrapping around all that. So we all got to learn a little bit about how this will be used to study the structure, the content, the history, and the chemical enrichment history of our galaxy. And when Raja explained this, he also explained how it is that we're all made from stardust. There was a beautiful participation where knowledge was exchanged in both directions. It was very powerful to our Kumkak brothers and sisters, as they have such close relationship with the stars and with the desert, with every particle of sand, that it was the coming together of ancient knowledge with some of the most modern research that was shared with indigenous students in the pueblos of Desemboque and Punta Chueca that inspired peoples of all ages to want to learn more about the night sky. I invite you to see this video whenever you have time on Native Sky Watchers. But for now, if we can switch back to our deck, thank you. So thanks to the Stardust Initiative, the Comcac received funding to launch a series of classes and workshops. Can we go through the next two pictures or slides? So workshops and talks, as well as field exploration trips and several other events where in their native tongue, Muiki Itom, the elder astronomers pass down their knowledge to younger generations. Can we see maybe 2 or 3 more slides? These are Comcac youth and elders, people of all ages, learning about the night sky from their astronomy teachers in their native tongue. This included ancient songs, like the one you just heard a little bit of, that talk about various stars and constellations and the direct relationship with them and the life on the desert. Next slide, please. This is something that had not been possible before, and thanks to the support received, children, youth, and adults have had an opportunity to learn more about what the observation of the night sky has to do with their daily lives. And this is a picture of the calendar that they've been working on. They had been wanting to work on this for years. When I met them, they talked about this as a project that was a dream to see come true, and thanks to the support they received, they were able to start working on it, and it's still ongoing, and it's very, very powerful and important for the Comcac and all of us that they very generously share their knowledge with. If we can go to the next slide. So from the dust of stars on the desert, sand, we travel to the opposite end of Mexico, the peninsula of Yucatan, where I'm from and where I'm at tonight. So if we see where the blue line starts in Guaymas, Sonora, all the way across Yucatan, and that's a funky way to get here, but it follows what used to be the path, obviously not in the ocean, but on land, from a train years ago that transported exiled Yaqui indigenous peoples to Yucatan. And it's part of the history that connects Sonora and Yucatan. Not a very good history, but one that we are working on healing and making better through time. So if we go to our next slide. I grew up in the Maya jungle of Yucatan, a jungle that is home to Maya people's healings elements. Next slide. This is where the active ingredients of plants are medicine for the people, and particularly during and post-pandemic, they continue being the source of healing for people in the pueblos. However, the jungle is constantly being attacked by economic interests that seem to be greater and more important than life to those in power. Interests to build for tourism, to experiment with genetically modified organisms, herbicides, pesticides, and currently a train called the Maya train, which, aside from appropriating the name of a culture, is devastating thousands of acres in the jungle. Next slide. Territory that is home to fauna such as jaguars, toucans, monkeys. The development of the train is destroying our underground rivers called cenotes and continuing to affect the social fabric of the native pueblos. It is exterminating the plant life. Next. As many of you know here, modern Western medicine is largely a synthetic version of active ingredients found in plants. Most of these medicines do not treat nor cure ailments and diseases that Maya peoples face, not the way that actual plants and the direct relationship with the people does. Today, the jungle is at a great risk of being lost. So last summer's SIP team of interns played a very important part in a small but mighty step in preserving part of the Maya jungle that will become a medicinal plant reserve. So for you helping me with the slides, from this point to, I think, slide 45, we can just go through them as I'm sharing, please. So we split into two teams, one that worked on cataloging medicinal plants, bridging the gap between indigenous medicine and contemporary science, and one that worked on designing a tool, an interactive guide that will be used in the reserve to learn about each plant. The teams work together to organize and present the data collected in an accessible format like you're seeing right now. Interns learn the basics of Maya hieroglyphic writing in order to create glyphs for each of the medicinal plants and begin the development of an app that would provide all information to visitors of the reserve. Throughout SIP, interns had the opportunity to connect with Maya peoples in order to learn directly from them. They asked questions related to their research. These are some of the glyphs that they worked on, and also share the knowledge that they brought to this repository. We had an important exchange of diverse experiences with medicine from the various cultures and traditions that the interns brought to the teams and the Maya collaborators. So this is a little bit more about what the interns helped us work on. And just some pictures of the Maya jungle where the reserve is going to take place, hopefully soon. We're in the works. So we'll stay in this slide for a bit. So from the stars to the roots, from modern technology to ancient songs, SIP and Shadow the Scientist has expanded far and wide across northern and southern indigenous communities in Mexico. Stardust being the unifying thread across it all. From our colleague, Dr. Lee, I learned the description of the Mi'kmaq elders of the, I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, I'm sure, but the Etabmumk concept, Edamumk concept, perhaps. Two-eyed seeing. This is a concept that is learning to see from one eye with the strengths of indigenous knowledges and ways of knowing, and from the other eye with the strengths of Western knowledges and ways of knowing, and to use both these eyes for the benefit of all. I believe this is key when we do research. As Dr. Raja has shared, when we do research, we search and search and search. And each time, whether we advance as we hope for, or we have setbacks, we always learn. And when we do research across time and space, we can appreciate that compared to the outer halo of our Milky Way, millions of light years from us, the knowledge of cultures we now call ancient aren't that ancient as we think them to be, and their knowledge is very relevant in present time. It is truly my pleasure to extend the gratitude that Maya and Comcac brothers and sisters extend to these fabulous programs. If we go to our next and last slide. Ajatipi and Muiki Itom, the language of the Comcac, and Dios Bootic and Yucatec Maya. It is truly an honor of mine to be able to collaborate and learn from the generosity of Indigenous peoples, as well as from what SIP interns and all staff have been working on while advancing opportunities and equity within various disciplines. As a Mexicana from a single parent household, low income, first generation college student, English learner in STEM, I very much value what SIP does, and I'm grateful to be a particle of stardust in it. Thank you for the collaboration and for all the learning and for what is yet to come. Gracias.
Andrea, thank you so much. I hope you can hear me, but that was beautiful. That was really beautiful. I got a preview of your slides, but your narrative was so much more than the slides had captured. So thank you. Thank you for being here. What an amazing connection Annette has made for us. My family knows this, but after this session with the COMCAC on the telescope and this wonderful experience of Etuapta I think Annette will be proud of me for pronouncing that Mi'kmaq word. Etuapta is two-eyed seeing. After that experience, Andrea was in the Sonoran Desert with the Comcaac people, and she brought us back. I say us because it's something that's supposed to bring luck to not just the person it's being presented to, but to their whole family. She brought me back a wonderful amulet. It's made of cloth with herbs inside and with hand-embroidered stars, constellations. And it's one of our most treasured possessions. And thanks to Andrea, the amulet was created by the Comcaac people after this session. All right. I'm next going to invite to the stage Anne Luo. Anne Luo has been a friend for a few years, and she's going to introduce herself. And it's really been a wonderful connection, thanks to her, between the SIP program and Amazon Web Services. I know Anna's going to call it AWS, and I didn't know if everyone would know what AWS is, so I thought I would spell that out before she gets on stage. Welcome, Anne. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Really happy to see everyone here tonight. And my name is Anne. I'll just introduce myself first. I led the academic programs team at AWS AI, Amazon Web Services. My team managed a portfolio of academic and EDU outreach initiatives that aim to collaborate with scientists and also educators around the globe to support research and learning and encourage innovation. And personally, I also have an academic background in machine learning and biomedical engineering. So first of all, I would like to thank Raja and the SIP team to invite me to join this great reunion. We are very delighted about the partnership that we have built between SIP and AWS AI over the past few years, and that collectively we're able to provide more opportunities for tomorrow's talents to learn and explore AI and apply it to a broad range of research areas. Our partnerships started in 2020, where we started to sponsor need-based scholarships. We also provided AWS promotional credits for SIP teams to use AWS services to conduct their compute-heavy research. We made this decision because we saw a few really strong strengths from SIP. So number one, SIP provides a very unique learning experience that is different from a traditional high school environment, right? Where you will follow textbooks and finish some predefined assignments and exams. Instead, the students here would be solving open-ended and also real-world problems under their mentor's guidance, starting from literature survey to breaking down the problem, working with a team to build solutions, and iterating from there. And also SIP provides a variety of research fields and state-of-the-art topics that the students could choose from, and a true sense of community and well-organized events like today's events, so the students could connect with each other and learn more. So after the first year, we asked ourselves, besides scholarships and also AWS promotional credits, what else we could do to further enrich students' experience at SIP. With the support from SIP staff, we started to organize hands-on AI workshops. These workshops were led by scientists from AWS AI, where students were guided to use cloud AI tools to finish machine learning and also deep learning projects. The projects we picked included Amazon SageMaker Jumpstart and DeepRaiser, which are both friendly to beginners, but also touch on advanced AI technology, such as deep learning and reinforcement learning. We have run these workshops in the past 2 years, and students were able to train and build AI models to accomplish their tasks in just a couple of hours. So we're really happy to see that. Okay. And here I wanted to take the opportunity to mention a few more learning resources for students provided from Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. If you're interested in learning AI and also cloud technology, you're welcome to check them out. All right, so to summarize my talk today, huge congratulations to the SIP team for 14 years of successful programs and also enabling high schoolers to explore scientific research, and look forward to more exciting news in the future. It's been truly an honor to work with you. Thank you very much.
Right. Always remember things after I've done the introduction, but one person who connected Anne and me is a dear friend of ours, Sanjeev Das. He's a good friend of Anne's, and he's an Amazon fellow. He's a professor at Santa Clara University. So just like Andrea thanked Annette for making that connection, I thank Sanjeev for connecting us. Our next speaker is going to be speaking via video. This is our next speaker is Professor Ricardo Sanfelice. He is a professor in the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department at UC Santa Cruz's Baskin School of Engineering. Ricardo and his two boys, and Mila and I had the wonderful pleasure of going to Golden State Warriors Santa Cruz League game at the Chase Center, and where we demonstrated some physics demos and he had some robotics demos. So in August 2022, Ricardo was appointed the inaugural director of something called the CITRIS, CITRIS, that's an acronym, CITRIS Aviation Initiative. It was launched in 2021. CITRIS Aviation was created to support interdisciplinary development of cutting-edge technologies and applications to help improve environmental monitoring, urban air mobility, wildfire response, security policy, and more. The initiative integrates faculty and staff expertise, research efforts, and educational programs, and leverages aviation assets across the 4 CITRIS campuses at UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Merced, and UC Santa Cruz. Recently, Ricardo and the SIP team collaborated on a large frontier grant on something called CPS, Computer Physical Systems, so robots that aid humans. And their grant was successful. So Ricardo and I are going to be collaborating. Ricardo and the SIP team is going to be collaborating on this aspect. So with this, I'm going to hand it over to Ricardo. Let me go back. And I think the slides are going to come from you, Chris, right? Ricardo, you're on. Thank you. Thanks for being here.
Great. Good evening, everyone. And I wish I was there with you. And I hope you're having a good time. Can I hear a little bit about the good time you're having? Can I hear somebody saying something out there in the audience? Maybe some claps for Professor Raja. All right. Great. So, yeah. So I was going through through all my emails over the past few days and all the reports that I received from students coming through this program, and I was so impressed at the work that we have done. So I prepared these slides to give you kind of an overview of the things that I've been doing in the Hybrid Systems Lab, which is the lab I direct. As Professor Raja mentioned, I also direct the Cyber Physical System Research Center and the Cities Aviation Initiative at UC Berkeley. But today, I wanted to kind of highlight some of the great things that many of you have done over the years. So next slide, please. So our work is in what I find very fascinating, which is the interface between physics and computing. What you see on the top left of the slide right here is what we call a hybrid system. On the left, you have computer science, you have code, you have essentially what you program in your system, say a computer, microcontroller, maybe a phone. But on the other side, which is very fascinating in my opinion, are the physics of the system. So you see right there what we call continuous dynamical systems. That's the actual world. That's the vehicle. That's essentially the temperature system. That's your robotic manipulator. That's a number of things that you will probably interact in physical world that is now interfaced via computers. So in the software side, as you see on the right side of the slide, there's a lot of algorithms, there's a lot of logic, and that's what you probably hardly understand. And when I was, a student as well, I wasn't really understanding it, but I was fascinated, and understanding this was kind of my dream, and now that's where we are. But through the years working with as SIP students, we've been able to do a lot of learning and a lot of understanding. Some of the examples that you see right here at the bottom are systems that correspond to controlling the what we call a plant using multiple control algorithms or using switching. Next slide will be probably providing more of a visual understanding of the things that we've been doing. So we work on what we call hybrid dynamical systems. These are systems that involve continuous motion and computing networks, or what we call in general discrete dynamics, that builds essentially an heterogeneous system where there's a combination of physics and computing. One of the key examples, and actually I was tracking this down, this was one of the first projects, actually the first project that we did within SIP. In 2015, I moved to UC Santa Cruz in 2014 from the University of Arizona. And in 2015, I had a great master student that really needed a lot of help over the summer. And he was working on the system that you see on the top left right here. That's a juggling apparatus. That ball that you see right there moves up and down, and it can be controlled at the bottom of the rail using a piston that impacts the ball. And this student and my master student were so efficient, we actually ended up publishing some of the work that came out from that summer. On the top right, you see more aerial vehicles. So aerial vehicles are very, very prevalent these days. We call them drones. In our lab, we designed the control algorithms that will control these vehicles so that we can put them in any place in space. And we also had a project in 2018 within SIP where we have a student working on drones and programming them. Additionally, systems that are related to power, in particular power conversion, and you see a circuit at the very bottom of the slide. This is the canonical inverter circuit. And in this circuit, you can actually convert constant voltage into alternate voltage, which is essentially AC voltage that we use to power most of our appliances at home, but also big machinery everywhere in the world. And within another SIP project, we actually were able to work with a student on that particular problem. Now, behind the scenes of all these systems, and this is kind of what I find very intriguing and also challenging, actually keeps me awake at night, is what's what's the way to make this system work? So next slide, please. And the way to make these systems work is essentially to understand how the key variables of the system change over time. And as I said before, some of these variables, like let's say the voltage in a circuit, might change continuously, but all of a sudden, someone goes and turns on the circuit or turns on a switch. And that change is an abrupt change, it's a discrete change. So this leads to a very interesting combination of continuous and discrete behavior, which again we call hybrid dynamical systems. So over the years, and with great help from different projects, I was counting, we have done more than 5 projects within SIP. And now we are very excited because this cyber-physical system grant that we have for 5 years will allow us to work with more than 5 SIP students over the years. So, and with funding through the National Science Foundation. So we are very excited about this. But our intent has been over the years to design these algorithms in a way that they will work in real-world environments with provable robustness to uncertainty in the environment. Let's say wind, or let's say fluctuations of temperature, or even better, more interesting, let's say adversarial situations or adversarial signals that come from aggressive agents in the environment. So we do a lot of math in our lab, and that math is justified by the need of a solution to an application. Next slide, please. Over the years, we've been looking at different ways to understand these systems. We have published articles and books, and we have also created software that we can run in well-known systems. One of the well-known systems that we use is MathWorks, MATLAB product. And all of the SIP students that have been in my lab have actually learned how to use MATLAB. Now, I also teach undergrad and grad courses, and we teach MATLAB to our senior students, advanced MATLAB, but also we teach the very basics to our freshman students. I actually just finished a course on an introduction to robotics and control for freshmen. And we're actually seeing that the students that came through SIP actually can really succeed and be very prolific in this type of courses by the exposures that they get through our lab experiences within SIP. So not to bore you much longer, let me just say that we have developed a number of results that have been very useful for our graduate program. We have currently 8 PhD students that are working on these topics in the Hybrid Systems Lab, and we're always looking for very talented students. Now, I would like to probably be able to show you some things being active and moving around. So next slide, hopefully we'll see and this happening. This is essentially a summary of how the mathematics look like so that you can get an idea of the objects. So we look at differential equations, x dot equal f of x that corresponds to a differential equation, which you probably have seen in physics or in advanced calculus. And also we look at difference equations, which actually allow us to model the transitions or the discrete dynamics of the system. Now, as I promised, let's see in the next slide if we can see some of these movies going around. And maybe those don't work, but there's supposed to be some boxes that you can click right there. Maybe if you can click on the left, right image, that should play a video, but maybe that is not working fully. Maybe we can give that a try. All right. Well, I wanted to show you the juggling apparatus working, but you know what? We have a YouTube channel in our lab. So if you type YouTube Hybrid System Lab, or HSL for short, you will be able to see all of these movies there. We have also a number of lectures that you can watch. But let me reiterate that the projects that you see right here all have, we can track them down all the way to a project that was part of SIP in our collaboration with Professor Raja and his team. Now, we're also very excited about this grant, as I said, but we're also looking at opportunities to expanding our activities through the program Shadow of the Scientists that will include some robotic systems that we can actually prepare experiments and show people from around the world how we do experimental robotics, like in the drone that you see on the top right here. That's a flying drone that flies in our laboratory in engineering basking school here on campus. So with that being said, I would like to thank everyone for listening to this talk, but in particular, Professor Raja for his invitation. And it has been always been an honor to work with him and look forward to continue contributing to the SIP program, which is a landmark of UC Santa Cruz. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Ricardo. Thank you for taking the time on a Thursday evening like this, but that was fascinating. Thank you for all the work we've done together. Thank you to looking forward to many more years of collaboration. What we have next is recorded video from Emily Schaller, and she's going to introduce herself in the video. But this is, Ricardo mentioned Shadow the Scientist. I'll say a little bit more about this when I wrap up. But Emily has been a big supporter of Shadow the Scientist, and she's going to tell us why. So Chris, please, if you could go to that video next.
Hi, my name is Emily Schaller, and I am a science program officer at the Heising-Simons Foundation. I wanted to thank Raja for inviting me to give remarks tonight at the Science Internship Program's annual reunion. I've had to pre-record these remarks due to being at a concurrent meeting all the way across the country. Before I joined the Heising-Simons Foundation, I worked for over a decade at NASA, where I ran a summer internship program. So I really understand how impactful internships and the alumni networks that are formed can be on early career scientists. And I was really excited to learn that this is SIP's 14th year. The Heising-Simons Foundation is a family foundation that's based in Los Altos, California. We work with many partners to advance sustainable solutions in climate and clean energy, enhance education of young learners, support human rights for all people, and enable groundbreaking scientific research. We are thrilled to be supporting a new program founded by Raja called Shadow the Scientist. The goal of Shadow the Scientist is to connect students and the public directly to professional astronomers who are observing on world-class telescopes in real time. Shadow the Scientist leverages a new mode of real-time use of ground-based telescopes called pajama mode observing that was invented to comply with social distancing restrictions that came in place due to the pandemic, and is now the default mode of observing on most large telescopes such as Keck, Palomar, and Lick observatories. So during pajama mode observing, the astronomer is literally at home in their pajamas oftentimes, and they connect with the observatory staff via Zoom and control the telescope and instrument via a remote desktop software. So leveraging this new mode of observing, Raja has invited groups of students ranging from elementary school all the way up to graduate students, as well as teachers and educators from all over the world to connect via Zoom to his group's observing sessions. So while they're watching the astronomical data appear in real time, students have access to and can ask questions of the astronomers and engineers who are collecting that data and analyzing it. Raja has already demonstrated the effectiveness of this program, and we are thrilled to be supporting its expansion to other astronomers and to other telescopes, which we hope will enable outreach to even more students, teachers, and the public all over the world. So thank you so much for having me here tonight, and I hope you have a wonderful event. Have a great night.
It's like a Marvel movie. You know, sometimes you have to wait all the way till the end, and that one scene comes back. I'm back. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have Madhukar Thakur. He is a parent of 3-time SIP intern Neha. He works at Google, who are kindly helping us today with our live stream. Thank you to the Google team. Thank you, Miss Angela. Woo, Google. Come on. We all went through university. We all Googled everything. Thank you. Okay. They have been great partners over the years, and we really appreciate their support. Now for Madhukar.
Thank you, Anand. So I'm Madhukar Thakur. I'm a Senior Director of Engineering at Google. I was very excited when Raja asked me to come here and speak about my experiences as a parent of SIP. My daughter is a SIP alumni, been at SIP for 3 years. So I also have another association with UC Santa Cruz. I'm an alum of UC Santa Cruz. It's also a long time ago, got a PhD in computer science there. So less said about me. I'm going to talk about, as from a parent's point of view, how did I see my daughter, Neha? What did she learn from SIP? And what was the lasting impact SIP had on her? So that's going to be my sort of next few minutes of talk. So she spent, during her high school years, she spent 3 summers at SIP. Each summer she did a different discipline. She's trying to figure out what her interests are. And now she's at college at UC Berkeley doing another 4th subject, which is computer science. That just tells you high school students get to explore various different kinds of topics at SIP, and that really helps them figure out what they want to do. So the first year she spent, first summer, she spent a summer doing molecular cell and developmental biology. There she studied trying to figure out what gene, there is a particular gene in the human body that acts as a suppressor for cancer cells. But in some cases, like the prostate cancer, this cell is beaten by the cancer cells, and she's trying to figure out what makes this particular gene not operate in that environment. How does it actually manifest itself? What is the transcription rules for it, and so on? And she had to use a number of tools, the USCSC genome browser. She had to also figure out like how to use a lot of wet lab chemistry, biology, like do things under a microscope and see cell tissues and so on. So she learned a lot of stuff that she had no idea before. The next summer, she spent working in the astronomy and the astrophysics department, working with Professor Gaskell, where she was studying what are called AGNs. Raja will tell you more about it if you ask him. But from my understanding, these are called active galactic nuclei. They are the supermassive black holes at the center of most galaxies. And she's trying to figure out the structure around them. Where is hydrogen found iron found relative to other elements in the disk around these black holes. When she started this research work, she had no idea she had some bare idea what a black hole is, no idea what an AGN is, no idea what the disk around these things are. So she had to learn a lot of stuff, reading topics from advanced sort of conference papers, from journal papers, from tech reports, and so on. So there's a lot of learning that had to happen in order to actually understand this topic and do some contribution to it. The 3rd year she spent studying chemistry and biochemistry, right? The idea was, if you have to generate a lot of cheap fuel, hydrogen as a fuel, it's abundant in water. So how do you get water molecules to split up into hydrogen gas and oxygen gas in a very cost-effective and cheap way? Because if you can do that, you can generate abundant fuel of hydrogen, which is clean fuel, and you can there's a lot of water around on our planet, and that would be a sustainable sort of fuel for the future. But in order to do this, you have to figure out what is the catalysis required, what is the chemical reaction of splitting water, how do you make it faster, what is the right sort of metal carbon nanocomposites required, and so on. So she had to study a lot of that stuff, again, entirely different from what she studied the first two summers. But the common thing within it, which I'll talk about in a minute, is taking on a subject that you know nothing about, figuring out what other people have done before, not being afraid of all the large amount of unknown things out there, and then making a difference. And I'll talk about what skills she acquired, some of which I already mentioned. She understood the domain knowledge, the 3 different disciplines she worked on. She really understood in depth and had to do a lot of fast learning within 10 weeks of SIP. Right? The thing was, the atmosphere at UC Santa Cruz, the program of SIP, how it is structured, made it very sort of safe and a conducive environment to exploring new stuff. It made it very safe for her to sort of read scientific literature, learn things on her own, unlike a high school student where a lot of it is dependent on what your teachers tell you, what your homeworks are, and so on. Here, you have to learn things on your own. Ask your mentors when you need help. They'll also guide you. Be able to read literature and not be afraid of it, because you firstly have to realize what you don't know, and there is a lot of it that you don't know, and not be overwhelmed by it. So these are some of the skills that she learned. The ability to conduct research, really understand what research means, what is an hypothesis that you're trying to form, how do you do these experiments, how do you learn analyzing data in some cases. So you have to sort of learn what a scientific research program looks like. You have to be able to participate with your professor, with your postdoc mentor in the lab, being able to discuss with them, understand what they are talking about, understand how it applies to your problem that you're working on. So this whole idea of being able to conduct research was something that is a skill that she developed, and over every summer she sort of reinforced what she had learned in this area the year before. Finally, like anything that you do in science, or any other aspect, you have to be able to communicate it very well. There is a language of this communication. Science has its own language. When you write a scientific paper, the work that she did in astronomy, they found it novel enough that her professor with her intern peers ended up writing a paper, had it published at a journal, and presented at the American Astronomical Society conference. In the slide before, you saw the photo there. It sort of is a lot of learning to figure out how do you write a scientific paper? What is the structure of a paper look like? Right? How do you contribute certain sort of sections to it? How do you sort of summarize it? How do you explain it to people when you get up on stage and people who are a lot more experts at it, who have spent decades learning this subject, ask you questions? In order to prepare for this kind of stuff, you have to read not only the topics that you read, but also things around it, because like science doesn't sort of work in just one topic on its own in isolation. So this is a lot of skills that she learned. Lastly, what I'd like to say is some of these skills will have lasting impact, and it's a different sort of meta skills that that I've observed her learn and sort of assimilate that I wanted to share here. Firstly, unless she really studies the 3 fields that she did, which I don't think she's studying in college, the details of those projects will be forgotten. That's sort of natural. But what will survive is the love of science that she developed doing all these things, right? The fascination that you have when you find something new, the excitement that you found something that nobody else has found before. It might be a very small thing, but it's a lot of excitement when you've done something that nobody else has found before. So that is the love of science that will stay with her for forever. Right? The ability to do critical thinking. When you are struck with a problem, whether it be a problem in science or it's a problem in other areas of life, how do you ask the critical questions, get to the core of the problem before you can solve it? That critical thinking really gets honed when you do these kind of experiments and you're working with your mentors and professors in the SIP program. The other thing is the appreciation for scientific research. Right? So when you read a journal, when you read an article in the press or a blog or something that talks about science, you really have to appreciate what has gone behind it. What is the years of toil that has gone in? What is the process at which the people have went through? There was a process of experimentation. There's a process of hypothesizing. There's a process of confirming that with data, making a theory, making a prediction. This whole area of scientific research, very often I find, is not sort of appreciated by the layperson in society. And this is something that science teaches, the SIP program teaches you to make sure you've understood this, and this is something you will carry on for life. And finally, the self-confidence to be sort of thrown in a field where you know nothing about, not to be overwhelmed by the stuff that you don't know, figure out how to sort of navigate your path through that sort of like darkness of stuff that you don't know to ever sort of get to making progress. Be able to find out who knows the answers or who might be able to help you. So these sort of life skills that you're learning, again, in the context of science research, this has been sort of something that she's learned, and I find that she'll be useful for a long, long time. So finally, I just want to thank Raja and the SIP program as parents and on her behalf for giving her an opportunity to develop these skills for herself.
That was Angela. All right. All right. I have the pleasure of closing this out, but I have a few things to say before we close out this evening's presentations. I'll come back to several of the themes that speakers have touched on today. I sort of found natural connections in what they said, in what I'm about to say. I'm going to give you an update on the science internship program, how it fared in 2022, and how it's really stacked up over the 14 years of its existence. Sorry. I'm also going to talk about the CREST program. It was something we introduced at the last reunion, maybe even 2 reunions ago, but Crest has really taken off. So I'll say a little bit about both. So let's reflect on 2022. It was a very difficult decision it was a very difficult decision point for Sierra, Anand, and myself, and at that point, Marley was working with us, to remain 100% online in 2022. As you know, in 2022 summer, many other programs had gone in person, including one of the programs on campus, the Cosmos program. But we really were driven by the preference of the researchers. Having said that, we are planning for a hybrid program, not just in 2023, but beyond. And what hybrid means is a person can opt to do the whole program online, and mentors can opt to put up projects that are completely online, whole summer, fully in person. And those are often relevant for lab-based sciences where you have to be in a lab working with equipment or reagents. And most importantly, a combination of the two, where a student spends some number of weeks on the Santa Cruz campus, and the rest of the time they can work from home, they can work remotely. Here are some statistics. We had 326 interns in the SIP program last summer. This is a larger number than the previous year. I've had the pleasure of saying that all 14 years of the SIP program. Even in the first year, because the previous year there were 0 students, there was no program. And every year, we've had about 20% of the students are returning students. They're doing SIP for, you heard how Madhukar's daughter Neha did the program 3 summers in a row. We were represented, 174 different high schools were represented in the 2022 program alone. Of those, more than half had not been part of SIP before, 98 new schools. This is the intern count, 229 in-state interns, or interns from California, 36 out-of-state interns, 18 other US states, and 68 international interns from 22 different countries. This is not counting the US. The US would be the 23rd country. Now, if you're a SIP intern, SIP alumnus in the audience, you've probably quickly added up to 29 and 36 and 68, and you've come up with the number 333, not 326. So what wool is he trying to pull over our eyes? Let me explain. There is double counting in the 229, 36, and 68 in the following sense. We occasionally have students whose home address is in a particular state or country, but they're attending a boarding school in a different state or even a different country. We figure in those instances, there are 7 such instances. That's why those 3 numbers add up to 333, not 326. There are 7 such instances. And the reason we double count is not just to pad our stats, but it's because in those instances, SIP is having an impact in 2 different locations. The student who takes part in SIP brings that experience to their school classmates and to their teachers in one location, and brings that experience home to their siblings, to their families and friends. Okay, so that's how those stats are constructed. We had 95 different projects in 20 subject areas. This is a record for us. The largest number of subjects to date is 20 across really all 5 academic divisions at UCSC. The 5 academic divisions are physical and biological sciences, where I am. Astronomy is part of that. The Jack Baskin School of Engineering, that Ricardo is part of. Division of Social Sciences, the Division of Humanities, and the Division of Art. All 5 divisions. So SIP has breadth. We may have to change the S in SIP to summer, who knows? Because it's not just about science anymore. It's about critical thinking in a range of contexts. Now, in order to create this roster of 326 students, we made offers to something like 375 students because there are students who turned us down in favor of other programs. We won't hold that against them. But there were close to 1,400 completed applications, and over 2,000 applications started. And those of you who are sitting in the audience who've gone through the application process know that it's quite tempting to not go through with the application when you get to the essay parts, right? So that's what happened, exactly what happened to the, many people start applications, but when they get to the essay, they say not really worth it. Okay. We gave out a little over $250,000 in financial aid. That's actually low compared to our overall size of our program in 2022. We didn't have as many requests for need-based scholarships as we'd like to have, and even as a percentage that we've had in the past. So about 20% of the 2022 cohort received scholarships, but application fee waivers were given out to just 6% of our applicants. So we gave out, for the first time, we gave out research stipends, $1,000 each to students who are in particularly dire need. And sort of this was a pilot year for this. We plan to expand this. That is, we have students who participate whose fees are covered by scholarships. So there's no money exchanging hands. There are students who participate and pay for the experience, and there are students who we are paying. So it's really all three types of financial transactions will be part of SIP going forward. This is the growth of SIP. This is a test of my Python skills. I get to exercise the skill every year to add a new data point and a label. I didn't think we'd be starting something like this in 2009. There were 3 students from the Harker School, Namrata, Andrew, and Kevin. Their parents would drop them off in a parking lot. They would travel with me to Santa Cruz. We would talk. If they weren't asleep within 5 minutes of my starting to drive, we would talk about what they were going to do on campus that day. And same thing in the evening, in the afternoon, on the way back. If they weren't asleep already, they would either be playing silly word games or they'd be telling me about what they'd done that day. That's how it started. It was as simple as that. 3 students. That fall, all 3 students applied to an obscure college in Cambridge, Massachusetts called Harvard. They got early decision or early action. I think they got early admission into Harvard. All 3 of them did. And their friends foolishly believed that if they came to SIP the next year, that they too would get into Harvard. We quickly dispelled that myth, but we continued to grow. You can see our growth. We've grown rapidly, and those last 3 numbers, 225, 313, and 326, were the online years of SIP. This is where we were completely online, and before that, we were almost entirely in person. Cumulative statistics, over 14 years, we've had as many high schools represented as in SIP as there are days in the year, provided it's not a leap year. We've had nearly 2,000 instances of students participating, 1831, but that represents 1,537 individual students. There'll be nearly 300 cases of students participating for a second, third, or even fourth summer. And Madhukar Neha contributes 2 to that count of 294, as you can imagine. Lucy, you contribute 1. Tara contributes 1. So that's a lot of high schools. And I can tell you how difficult it was for me to put together this slide. This is an eye chart, right? The font size is 5.5, just in case you're wondering. But this is a tribute to the impact of our program. There are 365 schools. The colors tell you a story. The colors in blue are out-of-state schools in the US. The red font is for international schools. I've tried to put down the city of the school unless it's already encoded in the school name. So for Palo Alto High School, I haven't put Palo Alto because it's in Palo Alto. But every other school that has a more generic name that doesn't reveal the city it's in, like Abraham Lincoln High School is in San Francisco. That's the very first school. I bet you can find, if you don't find your school in here, I am guilty of an omission. Please let me know. But 365 schools represented in SIP so far. And I love the profusion of color in here because this really speaks to the breadth of SIP's impact. It's not just in California, not just in Northern California. And even the names that are in black are not just Bay Area schools. They're all over the state now. Central California, Central Valley, Southern California, etc. If you've got sharp eyes, sharper than mine, you'll notice that some of the names are in italics and some are in Roman font. Italics means it's an independent school or a private school, a fee-based school, whereas Roman font means it's a public school. There are many more public schools in the program than there are private schools or independent schools. There's a very strong focus on inclusion, diversity, equity, inclusion in SIP and CREST. And I'm just going to show you a very simple flow chart here. We believe that achieving diversity through inclusion is what's needed before one can unlock the full intellectual potential of the world's youth, right? Otherwise, you're ignoring sections of society where there is where there are significant contributors. And this is really what is needed this is what is holding science and STEM back from achieving true excellence. I don't think we've seen what science can do yet. And one only hopes that this will, as STEM and academia becomes more inclusive, I firmly believe that we will see tremendous strides because we'll be bringing in different perspectives, different life experiences. With this in mind, in May 2020, there were traumatic events in the US. There was the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, and a group of us got together and said that the work we do in SIP is one thing, but we don't want to be tone deaf to what's going on in society around us. We took stock of the work we were already doing. We said we're going to think of this in terms of creating equity in STEAM, STEAM being science, technology, engineering, art, and math. This is what we're working towards. I don't think we're going to achieve equity in my lifetime, but we're going to work towards it. It's a long road, but we have to start. And the way we're going to do this is by engaging young people in critical thinking in the context of open-ended research, while they're being closely mentored by experts. And really, the notion of critical thinking, the notion that someone can be an expert, has eroded. It's tempting to listen to the loudest voice out there, not the most informed voice. And we live in an era of a flood of information where bad actors can manipulate the situation by misusing this wonderful resource we have, misusing it to their advantage. And so critical thinking its importance goes well beyond science. We've seen the politics of the world in the last decade. Its importance goes well beyond science. So as Emily mentioned, some others have alluded to, we think that Shout of the Scientists allows young people to dip their toe in the water. Because you want to do that before you plunge into the water. You want to make sure that the water temperature feels right. And in this instance, you want to make sure that the people who are already in the water look like they're inviting and welcoming you in. Otherwise, why would you want to enter that pool? Once you've decided this is for you, you want to learn the swim strokes, and we do that through 2 programs. PR is inspired by Bollywood, as you can imagine, but it stands for Python and Research. And Recon Bio is really R-based research in computational biology started by our colleague Gio Chavez. Once you've acquired those techniques, you can take a plunge into something like SIP or something like We Are Stardust that's led by Dr. Annette Lee. And then really there are these translational things one can do beyond. SPHERE stands for STEM Programs for High Schoolers Engaging in Research Early. It's a community of practice for those who engage young people in STEM research. Sarah and several others who were at the gathering today are part of the Alumni Buddies program. This is near-peer mentoring. We follow the trajectories of our alumni. TSIP, the T in TSIP and the C in CSIP stands for teachers and college students, or community college students respectively. So we have wonderful partnerships that make that possible. And that center bottom acronym is peer-to-peer college and career network that our alumni and alumni parents have set up. So just going into them in a little bit of detail, I'm really proud of this logo. It has the letter CREST. It's not written in Japanese, contrary to some accusations I've faced. It does have 3 equal to signs in it in this version, 2 in this version. And those are the programs that are under that umbrella. It really is an umbrella, and since it's Santa Cruz based, it represents the crest of a wave. It unifies the various team educational initiatives that are offshoots of SIP. Many are driven by alumni and parents. Shadow the Scientist, it's fly on the wall experience. I might be able to give you a very brief insight into this today. Python and research, R-based research in computational biology. We Are Stardust, you've heard about from Andrea. And this beautiful concept of two-eyed seeing, edoptimum, is looking through one eye again with Western knowledge, looking through another eye with indigenous knowledge, and looking through both eyes for the benefit of all. Teachers have come to us through a partnership with the STAR program at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. It's a program that's called, the acronym is STEM Teachers and Researchers. These are pre-service teachers, undergraduates who are training to be teachers. And the community college partnership is with Foothill College in the Bay Area. Sphere Network I've talked about already. It was founded by 6 institutions. We're trying to rejuvenate this. Abby Davis, whose picture you'll see in a moment, is trying to do this. And Alumni Buddies, we had 16 Alumni Buddies in 2022. And we have a wonderful cohort of faculty, UCSC faculty who've been advisors, whose research interests span a wide range of topics from psychology, MCD bio, molecular cell developmental bio, chemistry, biochemistry for Shaway, electrical engineering, psychology, astronomy and physics. MET stands for microbiology and environmental toxicology, and Sam Severance is in the education department. I always pull his legs saying every paycheck must feel like his last, but that's no more silly jokes, okay. Tonight, one of our collaborators from the University of California, Davis, is actually on the Keck 2 telescope on the summit of Mauna Kea. They're experiencing snow and ice, so they may not be opening the telescope, but I think Chris is going to connect us to the Keck Observatory Zoom link just for 30 seconds, just to show you what it's like to connect to a live observing session. So this group, UC Davis Keck Remote, they're actually sitting in a remote observing room at UC Davis, where it says K2 up there, where it says Brian Lamont. Brian is sitting in Hilo. Where it says K2 up there, that's the Keck 2 control room on the summit of Mauna Kea. This gives you a sense of how Shadow the Scientists work. Chris, we can disconnect if you like, since they're clearly in the middle of something. So, but I wanted to give you a sense of what this looks like. In the past, we've taken part in Shadow the Scientist session live. We did this in March of this year. We had a presentation at Griffith Observatory, and then we invited the audience to actually take part in a telescope session. We're not going to do that tonight because of the weather conditions on Mauna Kea. All right. I'm really proud that CREST has reached the following groups of students and educators. I'm just going to list them one by one without too much commentary. The Akaula School is based on the island of Molokai. We worked, thanks to the hard work of Sierra and Anand, we invited Amamutsun students and their families to a weekend at UC Santa Cruz to bring all the CREST programs to their attention. We worked in a school in Kashmir, war-torn Kashmir, where there's a lot of cross-border terrorism. This is a school run by the Army, but it's for civilian children. Andrea mentioned the work with the Kumkak Nation, astronomy educators. We work with a school in Kolkata. It's called Future Hope. It started out as a set of homes for children who were extremely impoverished, children off the streets. And they started a school there, and they've been participants in Shadow the Scientists. We've had bilingual sessions in this particular school, Instituto Tecnológico Superior de Musquis. This was thanks to Svea Hernandez, who did the translation. Andrea did the translation when we worked with the Kumkak. We were at the Lahore Science Mela in Pakistan. As a person whose passport says I was born in India, I can probably never go to Pakistan, but I can go there through Zoom. We worked with a high school in Malawi, thanks to the efforts of Knowledge Kundi. And again, thanks to Knowledge's efforts, we worked in a school in Harare, Zimbabwe, the Queen Elizabeth School. South High School is particularly significant here. It's located a mile away from where George Floyd was murdered. Thanks to Annette Lee, we had wonderful sessions with South High students. Turns out Jeff Dean attended South High School briefly before his family moved to Florida. He told me that when he heard about this. Jeff is one of our big supporters. We had a session at the University of Dodoma in Tanzania, thanks to Lordrick. And I'm not kidding when I say there's a school called the Volcano School, and it's located in the town of Volcano, which appropriately is on the slopes of Mauna Loa. And the school is safe, the town is safe, but they've been one of our outreach partners. Two recent connections, one in Israel, in a very special part of Israel, a school for peace in a village called Neve Shalom in Hebrew, or Wahat al-Salam in Arabic. The English translation is Oasis of Peace. It's a cooperative village with 100 families, 50 Jewish families, 50 Muslim families. It's a wonderful, wonderful community. We're going to be connecting with them for Shadow the Scientists. I got to visit, the day after I visited Nava at Neve Shalom, I got to visit Fatih Darwish, one of Nava's contacts in Ramallah in Palestine. It's my first trip to Ramallah. And I was received with so much warmth. One of my colleagues came along. We were received with so much warmth there. So this is work we're going to be doing in these two locations. And moving on, while we're on the subject of people, I wanted to acknowledge the work of the SIP and CREST Advisory Council. These are alumni parents. The names you see in blue are alumni parents. I'm not going to read each of the names, but they're supported by 4 members of the SIP CREST team, Abby, Lindsay, Sierra, and myself. And also wanted to thank the alumni who have really helped us chart the course of the Alumni Buddies program. And again, you see, I won't read out each of the names. Some of the folks are in this audience. Sarah's in this audience today, but there's some others from the Alumni Council who are in the audience today. And this is something that Sarah has really helped coordinate. I wanted to call the SIP team onto stage. This is my slide to cue that. Sierra, Anand, Lindsay, the SIP and CREST team, if you wouldn't mind coming onto stage. Ezekiel, who am I missing? Mark. So what we're going to do here is there are 6 of us on stage physically. There are 2 people who are on video. That's Jamika and Sanjana. And there's Abby, who's hopefully fast asleep because it's the middle of the night in the UK. So there we are. There's Sanjana, there's Jamika, and this is who SIP and CREST is. It starts with us. It starts with our family. It starts with us being a family, being a team, before we can be a family and team to others. Okay, so please a big round of applause to this group. All right. Off you go now. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's you. Okay. Just have a last couple of slides to say it really takes a village to build something the size and scale of SIP. And I'm really grateful to the many partner high schools and partner after-school organizations that you see on this list. The high schools are listed alphabetically. They go from Alisal to Yerba Buena. Most of these schools are in the Northern California Bay Area. Some are not. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo is south. You can see the Bronx High School. We have one school in India, the Creative School. It's just outside Bangalore. And the list in the lower part of the right column, those are after-school organizations that we partnered with. Again, some of them are global organizations. Some of them are specific to a particular country, and some are right here in the Bay Area. It's really through these partnerships that we've recruited students, and it's made SIP all the more rich because of this collaboration. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the many people who are on this slide. People have contributed in many different ways to bringing this program here. Some of you know who you are. You're in the audience. Madhukar and Angela are certainly in the audience today. I don't know if anyone else from this list is in the audience. You saw Emily Schaller. You saw her video, but if you could please, for me, give a big round of applause to this wonderful group. Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Madhukar. Thank you very much to Stephen and Chris, who are behind the scenes, who are making this audiovisual magic possible. I want to show you a quote from one of our current UCSC undergraduates, Kayla Bartel. She was a SIP intern for 2 summers in a row, 2019 and 2020. A couple of years later, she found herself an undergraduate at UC Santa Cruz, and she was a mentor in the program. I won't read out her blurb, but I want to give you enough time to read it. Kayla couldn't be here today, but again, had a wonderful experience, has continued to do research. She's working with me in my research group now, and is a terrific scientist. Finally, thank you all for joining us on this journey. We believe we are changing lives through these educational experiences. And if you have any interest in supporting our work or getting involved in any way, please see one of the people you saw on stage. Please talk to one of us, and we'd be happy to engage you. Thank you.